Hello everyone, and thank you for coming back to yet another episode of The Gloving Paradigm. I am your host, Peter, aka LPD8 The Buke, and this week's going to be a very fun week because festival season is upon us, and what better way to kick things off but with a simple study guide of what glovers need to bring with them and what they need to do while they're at festivals. So this episode is pretty much just going to be your festival preparation studies, and I figured that this would be a really fun episode for me to do because since it's festival season and that's one of the biggest topics right now amongst a lot of the glovers right now is who's going to which one and where people are going to be, whereas the meetup's going to happen, yada yada yada. Which all that information you can probably find on the Glovers Lounge or Art of Gloving or even on Reddit. So I'm not really going to be the echo chamber on all that nonsense, but what I wanted to actually cover on this is actually things that a lot of newcomers need to know about, things that they should probably have with them, and ways of how to conduct yourself while you're at these festivals. Mostly just because a lot of people just kind of go in blindly and not know what to do at the very beginning and have to learn the hard way. So I figure I would help you guys out by giving you guys a couple of little tips and advices that a lot of people have told me, whether it's from the Reddit community or from the Glovers Lounge community, things of that nature. So first thing I want to do is actually put up this disclaimer of myself. I personally will not attend any event that the event organizers are actively banning gloves. And I mean to the extent of they actually have security going out there and actually being rather belligerent to the gloving community as a whole. A great example of that would be Insomniac events, just because they're the big proponent that started the whole gloving ban, and that's pretty much where it all started. Not saying that it's necessarily their fault, but with them actively banning it, I'm just not going to give them my money. And I totally understand from a lot of people's perspective about supporting the artists. I've said this in previous episodes multiple times already. There are other ways to support your artist that you want to support rather than giving the money to the middleman who is the event organizer. Now, I can go on and on and on about why I don't and all the things. To just put it to you simply, why would I want to go to a place that will actively persecute me for what I want to do? It's... it's the whole idea that people have where it's just like, why on earth would I choose to be persecuted for things? So why would I give somebody money who's going to actively say, I don't want you in my events? With that out of the way, though, which I'm very glad to get that out of the way, but with that out of the way, let's actually get into the interesting things. So, first things first, I know there are festivals out there who actively ban gloves, and people are going to go to them regardless of restrictions and ideas and whatnot. So if you're going to be that person who's going to sneak in your gloves, by all means go ahead. I can't stop you. You're going to ignore my advice anyways about sneaking them in, so might as well at least give you the tips and tricks to help you get them in. As much as I will tell you I don't condone doing that because I don't believe in giving the event organizers my money if they're going to actively persecute me for doing something that I want to do. Okay, so the very simplest way of actually sneaking in your gloves is actually buying a thing called stash boxers. I know Amazing Lights sell them. I'm sure all the other light companies also have their own variation of it. It's basically boxers that you can wear that have a little pocket in the front where you can actually stick your stuff in and you can actually get it into the door. Now, I will say this to all the people who are worried about metal detectors detecting your lights: fret not, they're not going to detect, because if you actually know how your lights are created, they don't use certain metal alloys that get picked up on metal detectors. For example, aluminum is one of those things, because since aluminum is such a light, easy, flexible metal, it's not something that they really are concerned about. Not only that, you have such small, minute amounts of these metals in your chips that it shouldn't really set them off. So for the people who are concerned about their lights setting off the metal detectors, fret not. It's not going to happen. It's just so minute of metals, and it's just something you really don't need to worry yourself about. If it was made out of copper, sure, I can see where your concern is. But since we're using aluminum, it's not something that you should concern yourself with. So with that being said, One of the classic things that people would tell you either to quote unquote boof them or cooch them, which if you don't know what those means, cooching it is pretty much hiding it in your front side, as boofing it is hiding it in your back side. If you cannot afford these stash boxers, I will certainly tell you, just put your gloves in a nice Ziploc bag when you pull all the air out of it so it's nice and tight. And you just roll them in your underwear and you just keep them up near the front. Hopefully the underwear doesn't unravel while you're going through the checkpoint. Other than that, you should be golden, right? Mostly the number one reason why I always tell people always put your bag or put your gloves in plastic bags is just to maintain the cleanliness of them. I know, especially being out in festivals and being out in the middle of nowhere, they're going to get dirty really easily. So definitely advise you to bring a Ziploc bag with you so you can put your gloves in there. It just helps keep them clean longer, so you don't have to spend a good part of your time changing out your lights from one glove to another just so you have a fresh pair. Okay. With that being said, here are some things that I feel that all glovers should have in their arsenal when they go to festivals, especially if it's like a 3-day festival and you're camping out. Okay. Things to always have is extra gloves and batteries. You know, sometimes you'll have incidents where, you know, one of your gloves will get really, really dirty, so you have to change it out. Having extra pairs of gloves is going to help. I know a couple people are probably going to be asking around for an extra pair of gloves. If you want to sell an extra pair, if you're okay with that, if you have plenty of them, you can do it that way. I know some people do it that way. So, you know, extra gloves and extra batteries. Now, I will certainly tell you, before you're going to this festival, you should already have your batteries changed out and already have a fresh pair in there. That way, when you're there, you don't have to worry about that. But in the case of, you know, like an accidental light turning on or, you know, just any accidental drainage of any batteries, you have extra batteries with you to maintain your set so you can keep going throughout this entire event, right? Another huge thing that I always tell people is bring water if you can. If not, bring a container so you can fill it up with water. Water is extremely important for you as a glover since you're going to be exerting yourself in a performance. And yes, gloving causes you to sweat, so you do need to hydrate. As much as some people would like to sit there, well, you're hardly using any muscles, which is a damnable lie in my opinion if you actually think about it. You know, you got to keep yourself hydrated. Not only that, but if you actually can bring some nutritional food with you, and I'm not saying that you have to bring a salad or a freaking fruit bar with you, but, you know, just something with like trail mix would help. You know, something that can act as fuel as well as helping you recoup a lot of vitamins and minerals that you have depleted yourself of. It's always important. You know, nutrition and hydration are extremely important as a performer. Do not skip over these things. I'm telling you, you're just going to have a bad time because you're going to be fine in the beginning, but near the end, you're just going to be so wiped out and your muscles are going to ache so bad and things like that you just, you know, if you just maintain your hydration and your nutrition, you should be fine. Okay. Another thing that I always tell people to bring with them is baby wipes / wet wipes if you're camping out there, or any hygiene products if you're actually staying out there for a long time. When going to festivals, you should not be forsaking things like hygiene, because from my experience being at festivals, I've heard girls talk about how many days they've gone without taking a shower, and to me, it's just like, oh dear God, why is this a competition for you people? Why is this something that you should be bragging of? It's absolutely unnecessary, and you should not be doing it. I'll certainly tell you from my experience, especially being overseas in the military, wet wipes are your best friends. They are the best thing you can do without having to do a full-on sponge bath. Main reason is because the wipes are already wet, so all you have to do is just wipe yourself clean, and then you can dispose of those. You're not sitting out there with a bucket being butt naked in front of everyone, so everyone has a lovely little show to see where you can actually just clean yourself. Okay. Another huge thing that I always want to tell people is bring cash with you. Okay, as much as some people would tell you that it's not necessary, I always say it's necessary to bring cash with you. The main reason is why I always tell people to bring cash with you is because you never ever know if there's any vendors out there that just can't accept any other alternative forms of payment. And it always is just extremely helpful when you're in some emergency situations where you don't have any access to an ATM or any access to charge your card. You have the cash there necessary. Now, I know a lot of people are going to ask me, well, what amount should you bring? Well, to me, the minimum that you should be bringing with you is $100. I feel like $100 will cover enough fare for whether it be a cab if you need it, or an Uber, or whatever the case may be. You'll actually have the cash in case of vendors who don't take any other alternative form of payments, so you can actually purchase the things you need, such as water or any food. Some people might say 300 is more acceptable, which you can do that. I feel like that's just a little bit too much. I would feel more comfortable with at least 200, because it's just a good enough buffer room, as I like to refer to when it comes to cash, is buffering area where you can actually have money to spend without, going completely bankrupt, basically. Okay, so cash is extremely important. Now, if you're actually camping out there, I do suggest bringing camping gear with you. You don't have to have like a full-on tent. I would recommend a hammock, or a cot that actually has a shelter on top of it. I know plenty of people in the military who have used those. I've used those myself. They're fantastic. They keep the bugs off of you. They keep all your stuff protected. Yada, yada, yada. So, when it comes to camping gear, I will definitely tell you to pack light, just because you're going to be going around a lot, and in my opinion, you want to make sure that you can actually break down your entire camping site within a reasonable time to get the hell out of there if you need to. Whether it's just relocating or you actually leaving the event for the rest of the time. Now I can certainly understand where certain people are like, well, I'm not going to be camping out there. That's totally fine. If you have places to stay, good for you. If they have, a facility where you can actually, maintain your hygiene and actually keep yourself clean, that's even better. The main thing that a lot of people need to understand when it comes to hygiene, especially when it comes out to camping stuff, is, from my experience, when I was first starting out in the military, I would haphazardly kind of wash me in terms of a sponge bath with baby wipes and stuff, and ended up with a staph infection. That's something I do not want anyone to go through, because I went through it myself, and believe me, I don't think everyone's going to be in the same situation as I was, where you go to the hospital and the hospital people tell you, oh, well, we don't have any anesthetics, so we're going to have to cut you and you're going to feel everything that's going to be happening. I'll certainly tell you, I broke through 3 number 2 pencils through that entire process. It is not pleasant. It's not fun. It is just, not necessary. So that's why I always tell people hygiene is extremely paramount. So you have all these things in your arsenal that you should have at all times, especially if you're going to be going through the whole 3-day event. If you're just going for 1 day, some of the stuff you can omit. I would still tell people to bring cash with them, regardless of how long you're going to be there. It's just a fail-safe, in my opinion. You gotta prepare for things that are not really expected for. Okay, so I asked around, especially on Reddit, on the Glover's Lounge, Art of Gloving. I asked, what advice would you give to somebody who's never gone before? What things should they bring with them? And I actually got quite a good response from everybody, especially from the Reddit community. Once again, everyone who has interacted with me on these topic questions, thank you so much. It's been most informative and most helpful. If it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't have a lot more to talk about. So one of the big things that a lot of people will tell you is always ask about giving/trading shows. I certainly agree. That's one of the things that I have on my advice is, you just simply ask if somebody wants a light show, or if you found another Glover, ask if they want to trade. For some reason, and I didn't know this was actually a thing, but I guess there is a negative stigma amongst newcomers in terms of gloving, where they actually just show up to a random person and randomly start giving them a light show. I can honestly tell you from my own experience, that's not a good idea. You want to have this level of etiquette and professionalism when it comes to you and your audience. Now, a lot of people tell me where are the good places to go to actually find that kind of audience. They say the farther away from the stage, you're going to find more glovers, more inebriated people, but at the same time, these people have been seeing a lot of different light shows very frequently, so you might get turned down just because they've kind of been saturated with shows, so they need a little break. Closer to the stage, you might find more non-glovers to glover ratio. You will certainly draw a crowd, but you still want to keep it roomy. You don't want to be in the middle of the crowd. I personally say do not go into the middle of the crowd. You're just asking to be stepped on, and I just find that kind of ridiculous that some people still do that today. Always go find find a proper place where you can safely perform a show without the fear of somebody stepping all over you or your viewer. One major thing that I know a lot of people are probably going to ask is, well, maybe my first couple shows are going to look really, really sloppy. You got to get the cobwebs off, kind of break all the anxiety and all that stuff. And a lot of people would say, have a friend be your little warm-up guinea pig, as I always refer to. When I was going to a lot of events, I always had a friend come with me so they can be my first light show of the night, just so I can kind of get that out of the way, kind of get rid of all the weird feelings that I would have, all the anxiety, all the nervousness, and the nerve-wracking nonsense that would happen. I certainly agree with that. It always helps. You kind of, not only that, but you're also kind of putting yourself in the position where if somebody's seeing you giving your friend a light show, they can come up and ask, and you can give them a light show. Kind of gets the ball rolling for you. Another huge thing a lot of people are going to tell you is to check your gear before entering. I will certainly tell you that if I was going to an event a week before the event, I would make sure I have everything I need to go with me, packed, ready to go. I would even have an inventory list to check to make sure I have everything. I would actually disassemble my entire pack, inventory everything, and put it back and make sure it's all there, ready to go. I would put notes everywhere to make sure that I had everything. So definitely a huge thing is checking your gear before you enter. One major thing that a lot of people will tell you is don't take denials personally. The one thing I don't understand where a lot of people get miffed on is that, people will turn down light shows, and some people will take it personally. I don't know why. I can understand that with trades, but at the same time, you have to take into account that they're a human being as well. They're not a machine. They don't just sit there and constantly give light shows for 14 hours straight and not have a single break. We're all human beings. We all have limitations, and we all have to accept that. So don't take denials personally. It is just what it is. And don't be afraid to deny anyone a light show just because there is no obligation for you to have to perform when you're hitting your limits, okay? Just being open and honest with the person who's asking you, just like, hey, I'm really tired. Can you just give me a break? They're going to be more than understanding, because just like them, they know that you're going to be tired too. If it's somebody who's not a glover, they're going to be a little bit more understanding. They're probably going to go find something else to do. But, those people need to understand that we're human beings too, and we need time to actually rest and catch up. Okay, so one final thing that a lot of people are telling me is to simply have fun. And I definitely agree with this one, mostly because you're going to this event to essentially not be who you are outside in society all the time. Okay, you're going to be there to express your true self and not have to be what I like to refer to as the normal you, which, if you guys remember from my 5th episode of Naming Personas, is the don't be you paradox thought process, where you don't need to be your normal you, where you have to be with the obligations of what society wants from you. You can actually be who you really are and actually enjoy who you really are. Okay, and that's one of the major things about having fun. You need to kind of put yourself in this mindset where you're going to a place where people don't know who you are, and no one really cares to know who you are, because they're just there to have a fun time, and you giving light shows is just adding to that level of fun. So that's the idea that you need to think about when you come about these festivals and these events, is that you're going to be there not to be who you are. You're going to be there to be whatever you want to be. You know what I mean? Instead of being what is socially obligated from you from society. So my advice, at least from my experience when it comes to going to these events and stuff, I only did one festival where I actually camped out, and the main reason why I only did so seldomly in terms of camping and stuff is because I just didn't have the money to do that or the resources to actually continually do that. However, that could change. But when it comes to at least the camping portion of these festivals where you're actually staying out there for the full X amount of days, I've seen festivals go on a whole week, which that's kind of crazy, but some festivals have actually done that. So one major thing I will tell you is always bring extra supplies, whether it be baby wipes, whether it be clothes, whether it be food, water, batteries, gloves, whatever you need. always bring a little bit of extra, because I would rather have something extra than nothing at all. Okay, that's a simple thing. And if you don't bring extra, all of a sudden you're gonna have nothing at all. Another good point for me is hygiene is paramount. Like I told you previously in this episode about the staph infection, that's something you really want to avoid. So sponge bathing is the best thing you can do if you're staying out there and camping out there. You know, you should have a private place where you can actually go bathe yourself so you don't have all these things. Deodorant is also necessary. Please bring deodorant. You know, there's, once again, I'm just going to say one more time, there is no excuse or reason to forsake hygiene because you're out in the middle of nowhere. You know, because if you're out in the middle of nowhere and you're getting staph infection, you're kind of screwed type deal. So that's something you want to avoid. Please, people, just keep your hygiene at a reasonable state, okay? I'm not saying that you have to, use Totally Essence or whatever shampoo or anything to clean your hair or anything, but at least maintaining a level of cleanliness is going to help immensely. Another thing that I always want to tell people is OPSEC, which OPSEC means operational security. So when you actually have a campsite on these places, you want to make sure that it's secured, and you want to make sure that the items that you have with you are secured. If you guys actually remember a few years back about the whole fire festival fiasco that happened, people were literally stealing each other's stuff just because the resources were so limited for everyone that people were literally stealing each other's stuff just so they have things that they need. So making sure that you actually have your stuff secured and making sure that it's not going to be tampered with is extremely huge, because the last thing anyone needs to do is go back to their campsite and see that their tent's gone, all their stuff is gone, all their money's gone, all that stuff. So, just keep that in mind. Another major point that I always want to cover is etiquette, okay? Like everyone said, you should be always asking if somebody wants a light show or wants to trade or, just get a light show from you. It's extremely important. And I know for some people it's hard for them to actually speak and talk to people. I will certainly tell you that I actually have that problem too from time to time. It's hard for me to actually just say some random things to random people. However, you don't really necessarily have to say anything to a potential audience viewer, okay? What I usually did when I was going to a lot of raves and festivals and events is that I would just walk up towards somebody, have a reasonable distance where they can actually see me and actually have a body language communication. And all I would do is just stick my hands up and kind of wave them around like, hey, you want a light show? But I'm not really having to say anything. They just see my hands, and I kind of just stop there. And if they say no, I can move on. If they say yes, then you can move in. You don't really have to say anything. It's body language is like 90% of our language anyways. So just doing something like that is very simple. You're not really forcing yourself having to talk to somebody. You're just make eye contact, show your hands. If they say yes, go ahead. If not, move on. It's so please people, just ask. The worst thing that people are going to tell you is no, and if you take that a little personally, I'm sorry, but some people are interested, some are not. You kind of have to filter out who's interested and who's not. Another huge thing is always account for your nutrition. I'm just kind of repeating a lot of what other people are saying, but nutrition is very important. Cramping is a real thing. So try to avoid just eating junk food all the time. I know that we're going to burn a lot of calories while you're out there anyway, so you're going to need a lot of calories, which is totally understandable, but that does not mean you should be forsaking things like vitamins and minerals and other nutritional things like that. Mostly just because you're going to be using those up as well, and you must replace them and replenish your body in the manner that it needs, okay? So, that another thing is to just stay hydrated. I know there's going to be vendors out there providing water and stuff. It's always good to bring your own set of water or bring a container that you can fill up with water so you actually have a good amount of water with you. That's something I always did, is I always brought an empty container so I can actually fill it up with water, because there would be places that would actually sell water that way. So, it was like $1 to refill, which is totally fine in my book, especially if you had something that was at least 2 quarts. You're totally fine, because within 2 hours that should be empty, and then you should go get some more water. And again, I said earlier, a minimum of $100 with you just as an emergency fund is just there in case things can go south. It could be something minor, it could be something major, but it's just something that should be a level of security for you. Now, I know a lot of people are going to be probably asking me, well, what if I do pickpockets? First of all, anything in your back pocket should be in your front pocket, no matter what. Just because, as much as not everybody at these festivals are pickpockets, but pickpockets do show up at these festivals. I can tell you from my own experience at raves and festivals that I've been pickpocketed. Granted, I have all my stuff in my front pocket, but I can feel people sticking their hands in my back pocket. And another little lovely story that I'll try to keep short is when I was at a rave, I kept feeling somebody trying to go into my pockets, but never getting all the way in there. By the third time somebody was trying to get in my pockets, I literally grabbed that person's hand out of my pocket, found out it was a girl, and say, hey, if you want to try to steal stuff from my back pocket, you should ask me out to dinner first. This person started to cry and ran off. To me, it's a hilarious story. To some people, they're like, wow, that was really mean. Wasn't really mean because the person was literally trying to steal shit out of my pocket. Okay, that's the simple thing about it. So, again, that kind of goes back to the whole operational security. Make sure that you keep everything. If you don't feel comfortable having cash in your front pocket, stick it in your sock. Okay, no one's going to be trying to go through your socks. If somebody's literally trying to get underneath you and actually get into your sock, then they're just going to be in for a rude awakening because your foot's right there next to their face, and all you have to do is just put it into their face. One final thing I just want to cover real quick is when it comes to being denied a light show from, or a trade, this is your opportunity to simply just sit down and talk with this person. I will certainly tell you when I got denied, I'll be like, well, is it okay if I just sit here and talk with you for a bit? If they're just resting, I'll be like, yeah, sure, let's just have a talk. And that gives you an opportunity to not only have a chance to talk to this person, but you get to learn about this person a little bit more, especially if it's somebody who's well known, who's willing to sit there and talk with you. You can ask them, oh, what got you into gloving? What makes you so happy about gloving? What, where do you feel like you're going to be going with this? And things like that. It gives you this whole opportunity to learn from somebody. So if you get denied a light show, at least try to take this opportunity to actually sit down and talk with this person. It's one of those things that gloving is so great about, is that we actually have a chance to sit down and share ideas and just learn about each other and learn, meet different people. So that's what you guys need to do when it comes to these denials. And I don't understand why some people take them personally. I know the whole idea that you work so hard on this and you want to try to do, you want to show this off, you want to get great criticism, you want to learn faster. But doing your shows is not the only way you're going to be able to learn. So taking these chances of when you get denied a light show to actually speak with this person is going to actually facilitate learning in a different way that most people probably will discount, but I will certainly tell you these are opportunities you should be jumping on. Just, take these things into account and follow these things, and you're going to pretty much have an easier time about it. All right. But that's pretty much all for my episode. I hope that this helps a lot of newcomers understand what they need to do when it comes to these festivals, especially if you're going to be one of those newcomers who are trying to camp out for the first time. All these little tips and advices that I got from a lot of people are huge, and I feel you guys need to actually listen about these and actually think about these when you go to these events. So I would love to hear from you guys about this subject matter. What do you feel like I didn't cover that you feel like needs to be covered? You guys can always ask me. I'm not going to bite your head off about stupid questions, because like I said in previous videos, the dumbest question is the question never asked. So don't ever hesitate to ask me questions. You can always hit me up on my Facebook page, which is aptly named The Gloving Paradigm. You can also find me on Reddit under the username Mutton Chop Guy. You guys can hit me up at my email personally, which is muttonchopguy@gmail.com. And you guys can get onto my Discord server, which will be linked in this episode's description. Those are the places you can hit me up at, and we can always have a chat. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm willing to spend time talking with you guys on this stuff, so don't ever hesitate to ask me questions. I will, if I can't answer it properly, I will try to find you the information to help you find these answers. I'm not going to just give you a flat out, I don't know, and I'm not going to help you find these. So those are the places you can hit me up at. Don't hesitate to ask me any questions. I would love to hear what you guys have to say. I would also like to hear what other advices that you guys would give to newcomers who've never been to a festival before. What ideas that you can help them, give them a good outline of where, when they get into the event, where they should be going and all that stuff. I would love to hear that from you guys. So hit me up at those places. That's pretty much all for my episode this week. So I am your host, Peter, aka LPD Dubuque, and I'll see you guys all next week.